If the performance aspect is that next realm, let's do it. And invigorating young people's ideas of what hip hop can be. That's that girl that throws herself on the floor. You know? She does half splits. She does, not breaking per se, but I was unafraid to jump, dive, do like a dolphin dive, half splits, a little knee spin. I was unafraid of the floor. I understood, like if someone's calling you out, they're directing those moves right at you. Yeah. And then you have to go next, and you have to do something that's more amazing.
What would be your advice to somebody who wanted to start, they were going to start a dance company tomorrow?
Some of the people organizing the panelists would be like, oh, full circle, like these people.
What are some of the things that I guess you're looking forward to in 2025, I guess full circle, or even just you, Rock? Be ready to, like, if somebody's new, be ready to be excited, be positive, like ask how they can help you immediately. I think that's the biggest thing.
It just feels good that we can help people.
Welcome back to another episode of The Macro Show with your host, me, Forrest Knight. I invest in stuff I think that everybody should too. So this series, if this is your first one, is all about exploring people's relationships with money. I'm joined today by somebody very special to me, Queen Rokafella, based out of New York City. So I'll tell you who she is to me, and then I'll let you introduce yourself. So I'm a B-boy, been breaking for a while. When I was in New York City, living there, her husband Quick actually found me, and I had the opportunity to meet both of them. They are both very storied, what lay people would say break dancers, but she's a B-girl, I'm a B-boy, right? And she's a mentor to me, friend to me, one of the board members of Full Circle, which is a dance company and our crew.
Right.
So I still get down. You're not going to see that content on here. Go to my Instagram, but go to her Instagram, which is down below. And yeah, Rock, thank you for joining.
Oh man, anytime that you ask, I'm there. So
awesome.
Thank you. And I do watch this, so I'm kind of excited to show up on it. Like, what, me?
There you go.
Little me. So thank you.
Cool. But yeah, how would you, I guess, intro yourself? Like, what should the people know about you?
I mean, B-girl is the one thing, it's the one claim internationally that has brought me the most like respect, attention, jobs. So B-girl is like that's the throne. But there's so many other things that I do. I've been pretty multifaceted because in New York City, like the flow is such, a lot of opportunities just come.
Yep, you're a professor right now,
I'm a professor right now, yep. I have a t-shirt collabo line that I have with this Japanese graffiti writer named Shiro, which is like we both try to design streetwear, but mostly t-shirts right now. But we have had some fashion shows where we like, go left a little bit, and we do dresses or, shirts. And I also have music. I do write plays, poetry. Every now and then, I come out with a band and do some like music, original music, and a couple of covers. And so a little bit of everything, I've been fortunate to be around people who open the door.
Awesome.
They're like, all right, you want to try that? Yeah, come on, let's go. Oh, you want to try that too? Let's go, I know somebody. So I've been really, really fortunate.
That's awesome. So we're going to go back in time to young Rock. And so this show is all about kind of like long-term, how people think about like sharing ideas on money and finance and things like that, and just stories. So
right.
How did you grow up kind of viewing money?
That's tough.
Was it available to you and your family? Was it not? How did you think of it? Let's keep it simple. How did you think of money when you were like a kid?
There was never enough of it. And it felt like both my mom and my dad were doing 2 and 3 jobs just to get it together. And so I was very aware. I mean, there was one Christmas in particular where my mom like took me to the side. I might have been like just really young. And she just told me like, there's not going to be any gifts this Christmas. Yeah. But you're going to see all your cousins. There's going to be a lot of food, music. You're going to have a great time. Just no gifts. Yeah. And I had to be like, okay. Like, yeah, if that is what it is, I'm glad you're telling me. And so I kind of was not programmed, but tempered, to when the money's here, enjoy, and when it's not, just deal and keep going. And you're going to have sneakers and food and a roof over your head. So you don't have to freak out, but there's an ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And so by the time I'm born, my dad had more time at the factory where he worked at. So his income was higher. than when my brother and sister were growing up, and he was still trying to do the 2 and 3 jobs. So I think that I had a little better of a time looking at money and enjoying the benefits of money than my sister and my brother did. However, it was still tight. It was still tight, and I just had to wait. And many times in my early teens and mid-teens, I was like, Mom, I want this. And she would be like, no, what do you think I am, the Rockefellers? You think we're the Kennedys? No, and I just gave you money for this, or you got a birthday gift. And so that was kind of a shock, seeing how my friends were just going out and getting leather bombers or, the Kangol, whatever. And I was like, I have to get something that looks like that.
Yeah.
I have to get something that's not leather, something that's pleather or plastic.
Yeah.
And just deal. So I think that money was something that I saw came and went, but my life continued. I sustained, my friendships, and I just had to get good grades, and that was a focus. I was on a basketball team. I did join the band. I played the drums. And so, life continued. And I think that was the message from the hood.
Yeah.
I think hip hop was a whole different message, because it was like, go out there and make that money. Go show up. Go show what you got, and you probably get picked up.
Yeah.
So hip hop had a different message. But prior to my participation in hip hop or dance, money came and went.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I want to talk about. We'll be here for 2 hours, but I definitely want to incorporate, like, obviously your B-girl dance in general.
Oh, yeah.
Where that kind of came in and how that affected, money. But you said you were on the basketball team, things like that. Did you feel like maybe even like trying to get like basketball shoes and things like that? Was it hard to get the things that you needed for like just the things you wanted to do? And how did you, I guess, work on that?
So my brother, rest in peace, who's 10 years older than me, saw that I liked basketball. He liked basketball when he was in high school. He went to Rice High School in Harlem and in All Hallows, and he was in those teams. And so now it's my turn. I'm in 8th grade, 7th grade, and he sees that I have a little bit of a talent, because clearly I'm 5'0", like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that tall forward that every high school is like trying to have. So I showed some potential, and then my brother was like, I'll hook you up and I'll get you sneakers. I'll bring the Gatorade to your games. So at that point, I had support, not my parents, because clearly my parents have two. Like, my dad is coming home at 4, eating dinner, changing into his nighttime uniform, and he's out.
Wow.
So my dad I don't even think he was aware until I had a game or we won a championship or something. Then he was like, oh, yeah. You did what? My mother, of course, not really with it, not sports, a fan at all.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that support. But my brother really stepped in at that time. For those 6 years that I played ball, he was there. And what do you need? And he would go to the games, or he would talk to the coach. He took me to NYU and took me to Adelphi, where they had pretty good basketball teams. So he was sort of trying to maneuver something.
Yeah.
But so I had support. Without him, no, I was not going to be able to, because those are like hood teams, and you don't get the free anything.
Yeah.
But again, being on a team distracts me from the reality of my financial circumstances, because I'm kind of distracted with, practice or traveling to, this other high school. So sports, it was a thing until I realized when I was a junior, I'm not going to get picked up by any college.
Yeah.
And then I diverted into dance.
Okay.
Then I was like, okay, let's leave that aside. That was great. I did play for my senior year, but my attention was different on it. It wasn't like, I'm going to do this. It was like, I'm just biding my time until I graduate.
Yeah. So how did you, I guess, at that point in time, you started dancing. Were there places to practice then? Kind of what was the dance scene like at this time when you first got into it? And did you start as a B-girl or all styles? Or?
I did not break. Breaking was, I was a spectator when breaking emerged in the 80s. So I'm witnessing the come up. I'm seeing how people are navigating a circle. How are they, the rules of engagement, what constitutes a good throwdown. I liked the aggressiveness. I liked the the danger, the thrill. Like, will they hurt themselves? It was all dudes. I have to honestly say that I didn't see any girls in my neighborhood. I know there were, but not in my neighborhood. And so I'm witnessing, I'm in awe. I saw the movies, but I couldn't participate. I didn't have access to a crew. Even though my brother is 10 years older than me, at this time he was already out of the house because, you know, if I'm 9, he's 19. He already left. And he wasn't a rapper. He wasn't, you know, a DJ. He just saw it, loved it. He brought the first records to the house, but he wasn't a hip hop head. So I don't come to breaking until I'm about 21. Yeah, and so the clubs when I'm 17 is playing house music, which is really starting to like, you know, get good footing, solid footing in New York City. Latin freestyle, which is sort of dance music. And of course the rap, you know, Eric B, you know, and Rakim, KRS-One. That's who I'm around, listening to, Chuck D. So I pick up a little bit on the that New Jack Swing and, you know, Big Daddy Kane. That's the era that I'm growing up in.
So was the mix of, I guess, at the clubs at that time, what I'm curious about, you have like street culture, right?
Yeah.
People who are dancing and then they're also dancing in the clubs.
Oh yeah.
And I'm curious, like, what did that look like with people with money? Was like the club a mix of people with money and without money all dancing together, or was it more just were the clubs mostly driven more so by street culture? Or
I think it was driven by street culture, but again, so I'm coming in '87. I'm kind of after the fact of hip hop's emergence into the clubs. So hip hop comes, you know, into the downtown scene, 81, 82, and it starts to saturate, you know, with rap music or break beats.
What was like a major club at the time so people can like?
At the time that hip hop comes downtown and is about to really like blow up, it's Roxy's, it's the Funhouse. These are places where rap concerts are happening, you know, St. Mark's Ballroom. So you get the Houdini and you get even, you know, Roxanne Shante at these places that were before just, you know, like places where bands were playing, rock bands. You had some disco, because disco and hip hop are coming up almost at the same time. And so when you ask me about like who was there, I feel like there was always a VIP area where you had the people who had money and they were hanging out. And then you had us, you know, the youth of New York City descending into Manhattan, because we're from these far boroughs and there's these different pockets of hip hop dance. And so it's like a fusion when we see each other, which is great. And so the styles are like mixing. The DJs are real intuitive, like they're watching who's doing what. Is it like fever pitch? Is it like calming down? Like what's happening? Did the circle dissipate? Is it like everybody's just jamming? So I feel like the DJs were really paying attention. I mean, they're always paying attention, but back then I think in particularly like revving us up.
More so back then. The culture now is...
Oh, yeah. And I think that there were practices in the hood, you know, at somebody's apartment or like a church basement. So there were those like practice sessions, but they weren't called practice sessions. People were just like together and they were creating the vocabulary that then we get, you know, today. And so I'm coming into the clubs late. I'm coming in '87.
Yeah.
But after the whole like, you know, and also after all the shootouts and all of that. So hip hop per se isn't being played or being like invited into clubs anymore because of the shootouts and because of some of the drug stuff that comes in right after hip hop emerges.
There was like a cycle of that, which is a crazy departure. But even when I was a kid, I remember going to certain parties and stuff. And like, there's a song called like Nuck If You Buck. And it's like a song of my generation, and people would just start fighting. Yeah. And so it got to a point where you were just like, I would almost roll my eyes because I was like, all right, somebody's gonna get stupid, and that's the unfortunate side of that. But what I wanted to ask you is, all right, so you graduated, you started getting into dance as an observer and getting into it. Yeah. When did you start to pursue, I guess, dance, and then like financially, like you're a young adult? Yeah. What did you do for work at that time, and when did you start to get on this path of being like a full-time dancer, essentially? So my junior year is when I realized that the taller girls in that basketball team are being invited and they're being vetted, and I'm not. Yeah.
And so I had already been partying with my girlfriends. We would go out to some of these clubs, 1018 Palladium, The Tunnel, Wild Pitch Parties, Home Base, The Muse, and that's just 6 of them. There's like so many other ones we went to. And I was pretty good in the circle. I was pretty good. I had a mix of styles. I wasn't breaking, but I wasn't afraid of the floor. I knew a little bit of boogie. I loved house. And of course, like having that salsa background or, Latin background, I also have a sense for like rhythm, tempo. And then because I had observed the way the guys were rocking when I was younger, I understood, like if someone's calling you out, they're directing those moves right at you. Yeah. And then you have to go next. And you have to do something that's more amazing. So I knew how to, throw it down in a cipher back then. I was still watching because, of course, the guys know more.
Yeah.
I'm 17. There's adults in there, who are like really doing it. They're pushing this out further. So, I'm working retail. I'm at the Gap, selling clothes.
I did my time there.
Yes. And you get the 40% discount on the clothing. I did a couple other stints. I also, because my mom was working in the hotels, cleaning rooms, I did some housekeeping too. So I was able to finance going to these clubs because I was a nobody still. Like I still had to stand in line and pay my ticket. There wasn't no Rokafella's here, what? Yeah. Like now, Yeah. So yeah, I had to finance what I'm wearing too. Like you have to, presentation is still a thing. It was definitely a thing back then. And I wanted to audition for, rap music videos. I didn't make a lot of them, but that was where you went to. You went to the clubs to see the choreographers who were hanging out or the dancers who came off tour. They were there.
So I was partly work. I mean, that's still true today, but it's like you go to bump into the opportunity, right?
And you show yourself. Yeah. So I had to show my skills. Maybe that person's in a VIP. Used to be the VIP was up top so they could see the circles. And then they'd approach you. So it was a way to get scouted. I don't think that's happening now, but it was a way. I also started dancing on the street. So my boyfriend danced in the clubs. I met him there. And then he was like, oh, if you want to make money, be your own boss, because he didn't like me working retail. He was like, that's BS. Let's go dance on the street. And so that's where I started hitting, which is what the breakers and the boogiers do still to this day, although it's like 6 generations in now. And I still wasn't Rokafella. I didn't have that name.
Did you have a name at the time? Or what was it?
Anita. Oh, that's Anita. My real name's Anna. So Anita. And but I had a little bit of a reputation. That's that girl that throws herself on the floor. She does half splits. She does, not breaking per se, but I was not unafraid to jump, dive, do like a dolphin dive, half splits, a little knee spin. I was unafraid of the floor. And there weren't too many women like that. So I had a little reputation. Like I said, I couldn't get into the clubs for free, but the fellas were starting to know. And like if I showed up, they'd give me the head nod and be like, I'd be like, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah. So it was like a exploration and experimental moment from graduating high school to about maybe the time that I meet Quickstep in 1991. So
how old were you at that time?
20, 19. Because I'm 1 year always younger. So if it's 1991, I'm 20. Okay. And that's when I meet Quickstep.
So you're still hitting at that time?
Hitting, doing my mix of styles. I'm not breaking. In the crews that I belong to, there's always one breaker. And I'm always like, how do you do that? Yeah. And they're
so
like...
Quick for reference, everybody, is founder of Full Circle, right?
Yes.
Your husband.
Yes.
My mentor, also a good friend. But legendary B-boy, go check his page out as well. So you're hitting at the time. Was Quick hitting, or how'd you
He was. So in 91, he was hitting longer than I was. Like I just showed up to hit, and his crew, United Street Artists, had been hitting for a little bit too. Not maybe as long as the crew that I'm with, because there were like 3 historical crews that were like the firsts, but he was there for a while. Everybody knew him. Quickstep was also well known in international pockets, which so. He had this reputation. Yeah. As a b-boy, and he was the only b-boy in that crew, United Street Artists.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So each crew had like one breaker. Everybody else was boogieing, which is like a style of popping, and then they do like some comic relief, whatever.
So were there really like all breaking crews there, or was
No.
breaking?
No, that had ended.
Yeah.
That's why I said, like, I come after. My generation that starts breaking in the 90s is like that afterglow when breaking is no longer happening.
Yeah.
But there's like something in the ether about it.
Yeah.
So like people appreciate it, but if I go do it in a club, they'll be like, man, get that out of here. Like that mess that's corny.
Yeah.
So, but there's something in the ether because people are still like, they'll respect it, but they're not like, let's all go break.
Yeah.
No. And the tourists love it. So the tourists are like putting money in the bucket because they're like, oh, we remember.
It's athletic. Why did breaking die, you think, at that time?
I think it just got saturated.
Yeah.
You know, the market, and I think that the movies really went over the top. Everybody had, you know, breakers that were breaking in the commercials for like Fruity Pebbles. There was, Fred Flintstone was breaking. It just got overexposed. And then the people who were like the firsts, there wasn't any type of financial literacy to be like, oh, you got this money from this tour, invest it in this, open a school, have your own TV show. There was none of that. And so I think that we were naive, you know, we were excited, but we didn't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And those people are really capitalizing on us.
Yeah.
And the contracts, like even if you, I don't have the specifics, but the people who performed in the Beat Street movie, some people got good deals and some people didn't get anything in return. And that movie is still selling. Same thing for Breakin' from California.
Yeah.
So if you didn't have someone, if you didn't have representation, and so that, you know, causes also this feeling of like, well, it ain't worth to do it, you know, because look at you. Look at us, Look at us, they have nothing. They went back to the hood and they're broke and nobody wants to hire them. So I think that kind of stigma stayed with it. But my generation and someone like Quickstep was like, I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care, this is like the best thing since sliced bread. And we made it up and we control it, you know? So I think he was visionary in that sense. And the people who were breaking on the street knew that the tourists love it. So they were like, I don't care if I'm the last B-boy.
Right.
The people from France, Germany, Belgium, they're going to come here and pay me for this. So I was exposed to this like defiant energy. And I was like, I think I want to do that too. Yeah, I love floor moves. I'm unafraid of the floor move. So I think that when Quickstep meets me and sees me doing my version of floor moves, he was like, you're imitating. And I give you props for that. But if you really want to learn,
yeah,
6-step, baby freeze, top rock. And I was like, I'm down, you know. So it was it's kind of like a call to action to meet Quickstep, to have him bring me to his teachers who are no longer breaking, and for them, rest in peace, Little Lep, to be like, you have something. Oh, you're kind of strong.
Yeah.
Yo, you need to keep doing this. Kid Freeze, to be like, okay, now do it to the right. You got it to the left. That's great, mama. To the left.
Yeah.
You know, and then on and on. Like other men who met me from the old school would then like put me to task. Like, okay, well, what's the name of the song? And who's the artist? You know, and I have to be like, oh yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and you know, whatever. So that my generation was kind of charged with y'all are gonna preserve it. And if y'all are women, great, come on in. But you really have to be about it.
Yeah.
Because they had gotten kind of jerked around, you know, so.
Yeah. And we still see that today. We were talking at lunch, obviously, about some stuff. We don't got to go super into modern, but at that point in time, right? So you
90s.
meet Quick.
Yep.
He starts teaching you how to break. You're still hitting. How did y'all? I guess, when did Full Circle come into fruition? And I guess just walk me through kind of the thinking of creating a crew, creating a company, performing, right? So Full Circle, you guys do a ton of performances.
Ton of shows.
I've done a few with y'all, but I'm down here in Miami.
Did.
But
the Bronx Museum, I remember.
Yep. So, yeah, how did that come into being?
So I think that one of the last remaining frontiers that hadn't been tainted by breaking was theater. So, you know, if you think of the commercial realm or rap music, which had a lot of breaking in it, you know, in the past, what else? Maybe fashion. They all tried breaking, and they used it, squeezed it, and kept it moving. Theater, not yet. So when I run into Quickstep, actually, I auditioned for the group that Quickstep was with in '92, but I was with my boyfriend who had, ushered me into dancing on the street. Robert, rest in peace. He had said, "Oh, there's an audition. Let's go." So I auditioned for Get Original, which was the theater company that Quickstep was a part of in '92. I made it, but they didn't want to take my boyfriend with me. So my boyfriend was like, if they don't take us, they can't have you. So, I didn't go in '92. 2 years later, after me and Robert had broken up, I run into Quickstep on the subway. And he's like, "Oh, you got to come to this audition tonight." And I was like, nah, I'm actually over the dance. And, full disclosure, I was in rehab, because I had had a little bit of a moment with substance abuse. And I was like, nope, I really have to do the straight and narrow. I moved back in with my parents, like, I have a nice office job. I was a receptionist, and I had then become like a treasury coordinator, like I moved up. So I wasn't trying to risk that and lose that. But Quick was like, "They're looking for you. They want a B-girl. You're a B-girl." And I was like, Anyway, I go to the audition because he was so like adamant about it, and I make it. And then I'd never left the country, so he was like, "I'm going to take you to get a passport because we're going to France." So, as we're getting to know each other more, because I knew who he was, but we weren't like boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah.
He talked so much about the culture of hip hop. And I was like, I never heard anybody talk about that. Yes, KRS-One, yes, Rakim, in the past, Chuck D, X-Clan, they all, at that point, there was like this consciousness that, emerged, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Black Power, fear of a black planet." But all that had kind of gotten faded out by, gangster rap and whatever. So hearing someone else reiterate that in '94, I was like, man, take me to your leader. Like, what, and he did. So Get Original had Ken Swift, Fable, Wiggles. Like, you had these like knowledgeable people who were all about the culture. Yeah. So me coming to rehearsals, listening to them talk, having lunch or dinner with these people, we toured.
So all y'all toured together?
We did.
I didn't even know that.
We did. Okay. And, being in a panel discussion with these greats, and I'm just absorbing. I'm just like in awe, like, wow, yes, you're right. The DJ is like the drummer. Africa is the, like, it was just an amazing moment of activating my spirit towards, I got to do this. Yeah. And so those were theater shows that were like using the dance as a storytelling medium. I'd never seen that before. And I wrote poetry, and I did open mics, but this was next level. So I think Quickstep, in like an off moment, was like, "Oh yeah, and I have this idea called Full Circle." And I was like, "Well, I was a receptionist. Like, I can quickly like draw up, tech write or whatever. Like, what do you need? Let's get this company going." And so we became boyfriend, girlfriend in '94. I was still sort of performing with Get Original, but I was like now coming out of the office world. So I was still hitting. So it was like hitting office world and this theater company. It's like very mystical the way that happened. And Quick was like, let's make this company. And I was like, if the performance aspect is that next realm, let's do it. Yeah. Because the audience, they're so new to it. So, when people say like Hamilton is the first hip hop play, I'm like, no, it ain't. In 1992, there was this other thing that had the 4 elements, So it like theater and hip hop have been charting this like trajectory for a long time before Hamilton becomes Hamilton. And so, long story short, Get Original creates Jam on the Groove, which is the first off-Broadway play that is 4 elements. And it's hip hop like informed. Like so many people who went there came out of that play in like knowledgeable, inspired, like totally different than this gangster aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it did great. And so then we run into a woman who helped us incorporate the company as a nonprofit, Violeta Garcia, who has Keep Rising to the Top in East Harlem. So now we have a nonprofit. We have to get a board, and we have to have like officers and bylaws, We have to open up a bank account, tax code, and it just, boom, it just hits. I'm in a good place to handle the admin stuff. because I did so much of it with the 3 years that I was working at Columbia Communications, which buys up NYNEX and then is doing a lot of the cellular wireless stuff, you know? So I was kind of there. It was easy to do administrative tasks. And I'm training to break like 5 times a week, 3 hours at a time. Quick as like, put the ankle weights on, you know?
Yep.
So it was like a good moment. Yeah, it was a good moment to tie all these things together and create Full Circle as not only a nonprofit, a dance company, but a crew. Because we're out there doing high school like assemblies and invigorating young people's ideas of what hip hop can be. And so some of those young people end up dancing in our group in 95, 96, and we pull in some OGs, you know, like, oh, dust off your shoes, come on back. And we got like a turntablist. So we were, I want to say, like one of the first entities in New York City to tie the elements back together, bring breaking the respect that it deserves, bring women in. Like as soon as I was learning, I was recruiting. So I was like, hey, I learned the 6-step. Come here, learn the 6-step.
Yeah.
And then adding, all, you know, the Latin flavor, like, you know, Motown. So that's how this happens. And based on how the original theater company that Quickstep belonged to was negotiating pay and travel, you know, legal clauses, all of that, then we were like, okay, then we're not as big or as old, you know, we don't have the, you know, the length of being in existence as that company, but we can ask for some of those things.
Yeah.
And so that's how it starts to pick up.
So what would be your, I guess, having run like a dance company, right? Which is basically like you guys are entrepreneurs, more or less, right? You're running your own business.
Right.
What would be your advice to somebody who wanted to start, they were going to start a dance company tomorrow?
Wow.
Like what were some like the big like gotchas or things that you learned over the years?
You should pay yourselves for being the founders and being the choreographers. And those are 2 big things that you have to have. Like that title has to be on your little business card, if people are using business cards anymore.
Yeah.
But it could be on your website, your social media. That title should be there. Founder, I'm a co-founder, director, choreographer, because that generates that extra income for you. You know, your dancers have to get paid a certain amount. Rehearsals have to get paid. Wardrobe has to be paid too. So as you're negotiating something with a person or an entity that's booking your crew, okay, well, I need rehearsal pay, I need wardrobe, and I need their fees on top. You know. I
mean, that's huge right there, because a lot of people would think that, oh, they're just going to pay me to perform, and you just show up, and then you just get, you know, you're just a dancer. So a lot of people don't think about like, oh, wardrobe and...
Wardrobe is a must. We have to look good. You know, as I told one of my dancers a long time ago, who was like, I don't really feel like, it was a woman, I don't feel like wearing makeup. And I was like, it's a show.
Yeah.
It's a show. If they want to see the way you look around the way, they'll come visit you around the way. But it's a show. It's like you're presenting something that's augmented. So you have to put the lipstick on. You have to fix the hair. You have to have nice sneakers. And that's something, again, that dates back to the way people of color in this country were treated or looked at or perceived, like, you know, like beneath, not even considered 3/5 of a person, you know. So when we get the chance, we have to show up 150%. You know, you look at the Nicholas brothers or you look at any of the performers from back in the day when things were hard. Slick, sharp, smooth, everything is shiny. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was never a doubt in their minds that they were going to live up to or exceed the expectations, you know, because we were just supposed to be ignorant and illiterate. But when you show up, nah, I'm all of that and then some. So if one thing that hip hop brought back to the table was that after, you know, because hip hop shows up after the, you know, assassinations of our civil rights, you know, leaders.
Yep.
So there's a moment of down, you know, and then hip hop is like, nah, wait a minute. Like we still got the goods. Point the camera this way. Book me.
I think that's one thing that I've seen lacking in not lacking, but in the competitive scene, is people kind of show up looking just whatever. And it's like, yeah, you got dope moves or whatever, but like, why do you look terrible? Like, come on, get an outfit, you know.
I know.
It doesn't have to be expensive either. Just like, you know, go to, get some nice joggers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But represent, like,
that's it.
you know, it's a painting, it's a picture, but it's not just the moves. It's like everything from the moment you get out there is huge, and in life too, right? Even just for work, like people,
Right.
when people think about, I think success or like getting the gig,
Right.
You walk in and we're trying to figure out what the performance is going to be.
Right.
It's not like you can just show up looking like whatever.
Dingy or
Right.
yeah.
Even if they've seen your work before, if you show up looking dingy, they're gonna be like,
Right.
They're gonna assume some things. Maybe they're hard to work with.
Right.
Maybe that was just a highlight. You know,
Right.
you
Yeah,
wanna
yeah.
like every moment counts. So like small things like that make a
Presentation.
Yeah.
So like I am a professor and we just wrapped up the semester, and at the end, the very last class, I had asked them like, tell me what you feel you have learned about the culture of hip hop dance. And some of them were like, yeah, creativity, being unique, competition, evolution. And then someone said presentation. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you have to cover all your bases. And when I show up, I have to make you look twice. I have to. You have to be like, whoa, did you see the
Yeah.
glass frames that they were wearing? What?
I mean, have you ever been at a competition and if somebody shows up and they look dope, you're like, they're good. You haven't even seen them
Yes.
hit the floor yet, and you
Yes.
just like it's radiating off of them
Yep.
because of how they dress. Like
Radiating.
the whole
Energy.
thing. Yeah. it's
Radiating. I have an energy that now I don't second guess. When I walk into a room, I trust that there's an energy that I put out that is attracting people, but it's also humble. So I'm not like super ostentatious, like, rap can be, but it's something that's still tangible and people can relate to. Because we love the sun. We love a really nice garden. We love the ocean. So there's things about that that we offer to each other when we interact.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna be dingy or stained or like my hair's a mess or maybe I'm not gonna uplift you at this moment.
Yeah, it's a reflection of how you think about yourself too. Like,
Yeah.
people, I see it, people are like, oh, I don't want to be fake, and it's like, you're not being fake. Like, that's just you. If you
Right.
like, I always dress well because I think highly of myself. So
Yeah.
I want people to see how I think of me.
Right.
It's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about, again, on the company side, right? So you guys, part of that is getting grants and things like that.
Now, definitely. Yes.
So kind of talk about that a bit, right? So as a dance company, you do a lot of performances. If I was starting a company and you had to kind of explain the grant process, or like where would I start looking, like to build relationships? How long can that take?
Yeah.
What would I do?
Because Quick and I have been around New York City for so long, championing the culture of hip hop, championing the roots and the legacy. People now, it's almost like we're a go-to. They'll call us if there's like typical things like Black History Month, Women's History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, Hip Hop History Month, which is we were in November. So because we've kind of been consistent with presenting uplifting programming that has like, that checks all the boxes, then when I go to apply for funding, I have the footage, I have the invitation letter or email, I have the program or the brochure from that theater. And if they need me to have, confirmation of the venue, I can ask that Bronx Museum or whoever it is to send me a letter that says, oh, sure, when they want to book, reserve the space, we are with them, we'll, collaborate and partner. So it's like a confirming of that collaboration should the funding come through. So it's the relationships that we build prior to having the funding, because these institutions will pay sometimes nominal fee. Maybe they don't have enough, but we just do it on the strength because it's a great place to expose this type of dance style to people, to be visible, to hand out business cards or whatever. But then when we are applying, then we can use that relationship to garner the panelists who will decide who gets the money, to garner that kind of, oh no, they're official. And oh, look at the strength of their bond. Like, they've done these many performances at that venue. So it's the relationships that you make before the money comes. And then when the money's there, then you're able to, you help them and they help you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the Bronx Museum and do this show, but, maybe I can take care of transportation because I got this funding.
Yeah.
And then I want to have their logo on my website. and they're hyperlinked. So, or in social media, I'll be like, hey, come catch us at the show, but check out the Bronx Museum and their upcoming exhibits.
Yeah.
Here's the link. So it's like, profiting in a mutual way.
Yeah.
But the grant process is kind of, it can be heart-wrenching because you make this huge application and maybe you don't get it this year.
Yeah.
And you have to just eat that, take it on the chin. But the more you apply, the year, after year that you apply, then they're like, oh, you gotta, some of the people organizing the panelists will be like, oh, full circle, like these people. You know what I mean? So they advocate and they're like, they gotta get it this year.
That's huge.
And it is huge because I think at first when you start, nobody knows you. So you're kind of like, this is whack. I'm applying and I'm not getting anything. But keep applying and keep performing and keep showing up because all of that, it adds to the reputation for when you walk in the room.
So what are some of the things that I guess you're looking forward to in 2025, I guess full circle, or even just you, Rock?
Me in particular, because I'm getting older, I'm not trying to break as hard anymore. As you can see from what I'm wearing, I started to shift away a little bit from going hard on the floor because my body's changing. So I am trying to do a little bit more managerial, directing. I will be a professor for my first time at Sarah Lawrence College in the Bronx.
Okay.
I mean, it's it's Bronxville, so it's almost upstate, but not. And so I'm looking forward to that because that's a different space than the new school, which is like right there with NYU. So I'm excited about that. I want to do more music. So I actually expect to go to Ohio to work with DJ Forrest Get 'em Gump and maybe get 2 songs. I want to record something with Quick Step too because it's been a while. The last song we recorded was, I think, 2019 or something like that, Beauty Meets Beast.
Oh, wow.
So, getting the music back up, writing. I haven't written anything except for my journal for my therapist, but I feel like something's bubbling for 2025 in terms of my music. And for Full Circle, I believe that we will, revisit some of the partners that we had when we were doing the United Hip Hop Vanguard, which was a project that was supposed to strengthen national hubs of breaking so that they can withstand the impact of the Olympics. And so we did that, and it was great. Now we want to circle back and maybe take a different angle on how the community can utilize what me and Quickstep have in terms of wisdom and insight and help the scene, elevate some of the local history, local legacies.
You guys did a pretty big tour this year, though, around as part of that, just helping out.
We did.
Breaking communities all around the country, yeah.
We did Cleveland, Ohio, Phoenix, Arizona, Los Angeles, but we helped Los Angeles last year. We didn't really send any funding this year, but B-Boy Summit had its final B-Boy Summit, quote unquote, because, they always say, this is the last one, and then they get hype again. But shout and props to Asia, B-Girl Asia 1 and her team. In Puerto Rico, Time Machine Squad, which you have to come next year with us. You got to witness this group. May 16th, 17th, and 18th. But, I'll definitely be sending you the flyer in advance that he's a busy man, though, so busy.
Give me 30 days. But yeah.
I know, right? Who else? Seattle, Washington. We were working with the Goodfoot Collective. They have their dance studio. They just expanded. And so we tried to support and send funding to each of these hubs from the grant that we got now from the Mellon Foundation, the Andrew Mellon Foundation. The United Hip Hop Vanguard was through the Ford Foundation.
And those are big foundations, by the way.
They are.
Look them up. I'll add links down below to both those foundations.
Yeah. And we were just so happy to be able to say, we've got a couple of, we got some funding to send you and have that conversation about, as long as you're not using it as prize money, because we won't give prize money, but we can support the entire event, and give you flights or food or transportation, a panel, video, or, we can pay for the archive or the videographer. We can help you with that. Or maybe it's your website, you want to throw some more pages on there or whatever. So it's just been refreshing to then help those hubs feel a little more visible, we see you. We're from New York and we're supporting you, which is kind of a big deal because this is the birthplace. And to just see that they can spread their wings because I think we're all kind of tied by I can't afford it. and then have someone say, no, you can. Here's, I'm sending you some of this.
Yeah.
And it's in the budget. So before I applied, I figured, okay, they're going to need about this amount. And then a little pillow extra for
Yeah, you just
mistakes.
know what it takes,
Yeah.
so you can just like help
Right.
them.
Right. And then also ask them, like, you have to apply for grant. You have to.
Yeah.
It can't be that I'm giving you fish, you got to learn how to fish. So start to look up the arts councils. There's always a arts council in all of these states and also in your towns, your cities. Apply, send the video, invite them to your local small event and give them the pitch, give them the elevator pitch,
Yeah.
you know?
Be ready to talk about, and that's good advice too. Just like be ready to, like, if somebody's new, be ready to be excited, be positive, like ask how they can help you immediately. I think that's the biggest thing. Like people ask me like, hey, Forrest, can you give me advice? And I'm like, okay, are you ready to be helped? Like, what do you need?
Right.
Otherwise, it's like this ambiguous, like, you know, it's like if you need money, how much do you need and for what? You know? So I think those are like, that's really good advice. Like if you're somebody who's trying to put an event together, like
Yeah.
figure out, come up, even if it's a checklist, it doesn't have to be correct. I can tell you, as somebody that people come to often, it's like if you just have something, people are very often happy to help if you've done that like groundwork. But if
Yeah.
you just say, hey, we need help, it's like, okay, well, with what? Because this isn't like, you know, unless it's you and quick, like a lot of people aren't really in the position. If I'm on a local Miami council and some people's like, hey, we want to do I'm trying to think of something that I
Like
don't
a
know.
toy drive maybe, or like, you know,
Yeah.
something that is like for kids or, you know.
Yeah.
You have to have all the bullet points.
Yeah.
And you also have to be excited, like you said.
Yeah.
It can't just be like, well, you know, we break dance. You know.
Okay, sounds like you're doing okay.
Right. Yeah. It has to be that you're like, man, and you know, every year it gets bigger. Or, you know, this year we sent somebody to France, or, you know, we've got the food trucks coming in now, you know, or
Yep.
we're helping the smoothie, you know, shop to, you know, bring everybody some awareness of health. And so all of these things kind of like help your arts councils or your city assemblymen or even politicians too, because they're always they have to know what's going on in their community. They just
Yeah.
do. And in order for you to have longevity, you have to connect to the hospitals, you have to connect to, you know, some of the politicians and some of the other organizations in your community, the ones that are just trying to create GED programs, you know,
Yeah.
so people who flunked out of high school can still get a diploma. You want to connect with those people because we're art, and
Yeah.
art is inside of everything. So I think that has helped Quick Step and I, and now it just feels good that we can help people. So in 2025, I think we're going to do a different version of that project. We're still working out the kinks, but I feel like it's going to be great, and it's going to be nuanced. So it's not going to be like, you have to do it this way.
Yeah.
It'll be like, we're going to provide you with a little bit of guidance, and then you go and see how it works in your town, you know, and then report
cool.
back. I need you to report back so that I know whether it worked or it didn't. And also for my final report, you know, because
Yeah.
you always have to have that final report to the funder, like, okay, and then this is what happened, and these are the pictures, and
So I always end on two questions. Before I ask my two questions,
Okay.
you can ask me anything. On the spot.
on the spot. What was a battle that you witnessed that really impressed you with the skill level? Who did you see battle that you were like,
Ooh.
oh, wow, that was a whole different skill level. I didn't expect that.
Wow, now you flipped it.
Not so much like who won.
Yeah.
And not about that, but just like you witnessed it and you were like, oh my God, these two people.
That's tough because there have been a lot that I
sure.
think in the
You're right.
moment where I was like,
You're right.
that's crazy. I think if I go back in time to like what got me into breaking was just some local b-boys. But I remember I watched a battle against Brickheads. It's based out of Chicago.
Okay.
And I don't think it was a crew. It was like a hodgepodge of locals, right? So it was
Okay.
like an on-the-spot crew. For those watching, okay, crews, by the way, I'm using words that we understand. A crew is, really think of it as a group of friends that dance and practice together, first and foremost.
That's it.
It's not like, you wouldn't necessarily be in a crew with somebody that you never see. A crew is
Right.
really like your friends, your family, right? You train together, You have routines.
Yep.
The only way you're gonna have routine is if you practice with somebody often.
Right.
So that's really what a crew is, and you have your own little expectations and accountability for each other, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Brickheads is a crew out of Chicago.
Legacy crew, yeah.
Still there, history, and then just a bunch of local dancers teamed up essentially.
Okay.
But I remember watching that battle, and the energy just went through the roof. I was probably 17, 18. I was young. I was a kid, and I just remember seeing some crazy head spins, just like one of those head spins that goes forever.
Yeah.
Everyone's losing their mind, and you knew it was a wrap at that point. Like you could feel the energy get sucked out at the other side.
Yes.
And
I love that.
Which isn't always the case, but it's like I had never been in a battle that I was dancing at that time, but I had never been in a battle where the energy had got that high. And so it was a learning moment where
Yes.
it's like, oh, like what if that happened to me? Like, what would you do?
What could you do, right?
Right? And it's just like, oh,
It's awesome.
I'd probably lose too. But
It's awesome. I'm glad you brought that back, because I do remember seeing Brickheads and motion disorders, phase 2, the self-X from the Midwest. To me, like, wow, yes, thank you for bringing those memories back, because that was a time. And I mean, I don't know, where do you see breaking going in the future? And that's a general thing. You don't have to be,
I think it's going to become more. I would love. This is tough. So we need to have a standard for competitions, because as it gets bigger, it's going to be tough for, I think, people to get on board if there's not a common language to understand why somebody's better than somebody else. As
True
dancers,
indeed.
we don't really like that, right? We like going. For example, it's like you watch a battle and it's like somebody does some crazy flips and stuff. Everyone's screaming because people understand flips, and then there's somebody who's more nuanced and is doing smaller moves.
Right.
Unless you're a
It gets
dancer,
lost, right.
you don't really appreciate it. And so between like the common public and dancers, it's hard to explain why this
You're right.
person might be better
You're right.
than the person who does the flips.
We're going to need to work on that for us. We're going to need to work on that, like, blueprint,
Yeah, so
standard.
and then trying to get everybody on board with the standard, that's crazy too. But we just had the Olympics, right? We had
But
a
we're
lot
still
of
young.
energy.
We're not going to talk about the Olympics.
We're not going to talk about that.
But we're young. We're not going to talk about that. But we're young enough to be able to put our 2 cents in.
Yeah. So my hope though is that the ecosystem gets bigger. I think just so more people can do it professionally. That would be my hope, is that there's enough opportunity to where, because Red Bull is has its merits, has its pros and its cons, but it's a big ecosystem, but it's not enough. So there's Red Bull, there are other circuits like, USA Break-In. There's these different circuits, but there's only so much opportunity for B-boys and B-girls today.
Yeah.
So hopefully, right, we're not going to talk about the Olympics, but I think after the Olympics, now that so many people have seen it, I think we're going to have another generation and a demand for teachers and like we've never seen before. And
entrepreneurs too,
So
just like you're a breaker and you have your podcast and you have so many things, it's not just that. I feel like a lot of dancers should be able to do that too.
Yeah.
Keep your foot in it, but then delve into other things that are part of your like DNA. Because each person brings something different. And so like, I feel like dancers can do fashion, can do therapy, can do so many things, you know? And this is the time to do it with all the technology that's accessible, that was not accessible in the 80s. So yes to that. That was my 2 questions.
Cool.
You did great, by the way. You did great.
Thank you. So my 2 is, we're going to end on a positive note, but the first one is, what are you most afraid of?
Wow. That I won't live to my fullest potential. So I think when I wake up, I'm like, what I got to do today to make what I want to happen.
You don't think you've lived? I mean, obviously
You know what it is? That there is a regret, that I wasn't able to take care of my parents, I mean, I took care of them. I was their caregiver until they died. Rest in peace. But there's that little bit of regret. Like I wasn't able to get them the home or get them what they worked so hard for, So I think that that's something that every day I wake up, I'm like, how can I do more? How can I get better? How can I, live up to that desire that I had, that I was not able to
maybe
come
this
to
is
fruition.
what they worked so hard for.
Maybe, I mean, in the end, I know they were proud of me. I was with them until their last breath, so I know. but it's just that internal thing. And then also knowing, how how people in Puerto Rico are living and how I have land there, but I cannot go back there. There are things that push me every day. And at the close of my day, I have to be like, you did great, Rock, you did great. But,
So
you're still missing. You're still missing.
Yeah. I asked that.
Before that.
I asked that, and I want to flip that and say, okay, so there are these things that are, you can tell like there's a lot of emotion tied to them. So I guess my challenge for you, and this is why I always ask people, is when you're thinking about those things, like what is the positive flip to that? What is the opportunity and the upside, right?
I feel like I exceeded the expectations of a person like me coming from the background and the neighborhood. So in even though I have those little regrets, there's like 99% of my psyche that's like, nah, I did this. I really knocked it out the park, and people did not expect me to have a TV show on BronxNet or to have made a film about B-girls or put out music or, act, be in the plays, help as many people as I did, because there are times when the thank you comes back and I'm like, oh, wow, oh, yeah, right, how you doing? Oh, my God, look at you. There is the consolation that what little I was given, man, those little seeds created.
Well, I feel very blessed to know you, privileged to know you personally.
Thank you,
on the outside looking in, I think we all kind of know what we're thinking, and what we compare what we've done to what we wanted to do.
Right.
I could tell you as a third party, I'm proud of you. You've done amazing. But then my last question is, what are you most excited about next year?
Well, I feel like we're gonna go into this new presidency, and I'm excited to see how business owners and entrepreneurs will flourish. So, and I have a business, and I am, dibble-dabbling into so many other different things that are business-oriented. So I kind of feel like it's gonna be a great years that are coming. So whether it's Bitcoin or whatever it is, a new music platform or independent traveling, that's what I'm excited. Internationally, though, I do wish that the wars would kind of stop.
Yeah,
because
nice.
it just feels
let's
like,
stop fighting, guys.
Yeah, y'all, like you could dance. Actually, you could dance it out, and
that'd be.
we could figure out who does the dishes. Okay, that's how sometimes me and Quickstep do it. Like, we're gonna do this, and then you got dishes if you lose. Because the wars are kind of interfering with the progress.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like if that can stop, we'll really make even bigger strides environmentally, business-wise. So I think that's just a wish, but I'm excited. I don't think
it's a bad wish. I think one of the things, despite the ongoing strife, is the world has gotten smaller. So there's a downside to forgetting how to talk. There's a dark side to social media, but I think the upside is that we can see people that we would never interact with. We can see and empathize, whichever way you see it. We can empathize with people who are on both sides of a war, which is crazy. You couldn't do that in the past. We can see why people on this side who are maybe the attackers, and they're on your feed, and then you can see the people on the other side on your feed, which is crazy to me. So I think that relationship, that global relationship, is really going to change people's desire to want to do wars forever, because they're going to be like, why are we fighting? This doesn't make any sense. So
it's kind of like those beefs that haven't died in breaking.
Yeah.
We're older now, and it's kind of like, okay, you can let that go.
Yeah.
It's okay. And we saw the footage. So we're cool. You know, and if it was a miscommunication, or if it was something that could, we can't go back and change it, can we just reconcile it and just say, y'all both are amazing, and look at how long you've lived, and, you have redeeming qualities, let's go, because we're getting older now.
Yeah.
Holding on to those beefs it interferes with young people who are coming in having a safer space.
Yeah.
So I think that the same thing is with the wars. It's like, can y'all just stop? Because the next generations are walking into the fallout.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be in your show because I see it. I see it.
Welcome.
Like, ooh.
We're coming up. We're coming up.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me. Definitely appreciate you taking the time. Super random, but guys, subscribe to the channel. Check out Rock's page. I could tell you, so I didn't say this on the show. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm actually on the board of Full Circle. We're always looking for more people to be sponsors and help with everything that we mentioned, right? So they put a lot of energy, and I say them, right? I'm on the board. Rock puts a lot of energy.
I do, but we do it.
Into these events, helping people. And if you want to help with that, they are a nonprofit, right? So you can donate. It's a tax write-off. We're all about finance here. So if you want that tax write-off, if you have a tax burden and you want to spend that money, elsewhere instead of giving it to the government, this is a way that you can make a direct impact with something that I care about. I know y'all are fans of me. I'm a fan of Rock, so that would be dope. But
thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you, Rock.
Thank you to Queen Bee, Brianda.
Where's she at? Over
Your
there?
Producer.
Queen Bee.
And shout to Quick Step too. And I'm happy to be here at Art Basel, but chilling with Forrest.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
Peace.
All right. See y'all on the next one. Peace.
I'm never gonna look back, 'cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast.